Whether you know him for his Billboard bangers or his bluesy ballads, John Mayer is undoubtedly one of the most talented guitarists of his generation, and this song Neon from his 1999 EP Inside Once Out shows us why. However, despite the song turning 20 this year, there is still a dispute among guitarists about the correct way to play it. My name is Leo CADGBE from Leo CADGBE Music, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the definitive way to play Neon by John Mayer. So I've wanted to make this tutorial for a while now for two main reasons. The first one being that it's a fantastic song. It's one of my favourite songs of all time. John Mayer is one of my favourite artists of all time. I think he's a fantastic musician. I think he's a very, very, very underrated acoustic guitar player and a very creative acoustic guitar player as well. I remember listening to this song, learning this song, and it opening up a whole new world of possibilities for what you could do on the acoustic guitar that I just hadn't even thought was possible before. So hopefully by learning this song, you guys can undergo a similar transformation and be inspired to do some new things on the acoustic guitar in the way that I was. The second reason that I wanted to make a tutorial for Neon is that I must have spent weeks, months maybe as a teenager, sat in a dimly lit room in front of a computer screen trying to work out how in the world John Mayer makes a guitar sound the way he does on this song, and there not being a tutorial out there that told me how to do it. And having scrolled through YouTube recently, I still can't find a tutorial that makes it sound the way he does. That's not to say that the other tutorials aren't fantastic. I think a lot of them are really, really informative, and I think they're very, very, very useful. However, I haven't yet seen one that quite gets the technique down that John Mayer uses when he plays this song. And so in the interest of saving you guys a bit of time and fast tracking what for me was a year-long process of trying to learn this song and trying to make it sound right, I thought I'd upload a tutorial to YouTube to hopefully get you guys a little bit closer to making it sound the way that you guys want it to. If you do find the video useful, please drop the video a like, please subscribe to the channel, please leave a comment if there's anything that you guys think that I've missed. And so without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing to really nail when playing Neon, and the main reason I think most guitar players struggle with the song initially, is the right hand technique that John Mayer uses throughout this song. Now when you're learning the technique to begin with, it might feel a bit unconventional, a bit unnatural to move your hand in this way, and if your thumbs aren't used to striking the strings the way that John Mayer does throughout this song, they might get a bit sore as well. However, if you persevere with the technique, it will start to feel a bit more natural. The rhythm and the groove of the song will feel more natural as well, and over the next couple of days your thumb will probably got a bit of a callus on it as well, and so striking the strings will be a bit less painful and a bit easier too. So the first thing you'll probably notice is the angle of my hand in relation to the guitar. Whereas with traditional fingerstyle, your hand is more parallel to the neck of the guitar so that all of your fingers can pluck the strings with maximum efficiency and comfort. Because we're only using two fingers throughout this entire song, thumb and your first finger on your right hand, or on your picking hand if you're left-handed, your hand is actually going to be more perpendicular to the body of the guitar. The palm of my hand is not resting, muting the strings at all. The anchor instead is coming from my little finger resting on the pick guard. The next thing to focus on is where the movement actually comes from when striking the strings. Whereas when you're plucking strings, most of the momentum comes from your fingers, and your fingers move away from the strings, and when you're strumming, your forearm is adding a bit of momentum and a bit of power as well. All of the movement through Neon is going to come from the flick of your wrist as you move through the strings. And so the first thing to practice is just getting your wrist moving and striking the strings with that kind of bounce that John Mayer uses a lot when he plays rhythm guitar. So now we've got our hand position correct and our wrist is moving the right way as well. The next thing to focus on is the actual strings we'll be striking. Now throughout almost the entirety of Neon, there is an 8-beat cycle which repeats, or an 8-beat groove, and that's the backbone of the entire song. And so if you can nail the groove, the song is essentially placing chords over the groove and it becomes a lot easier. So the first beat of our 8-beat cycle is going to be a strike with our thumb on the low E string. Now this is the most important part of the song because this is the part that most guitar players struggle with, and this is the reason I believe it's often taught wrong, is the way that the strings are struck. So instead of plucking the string and moving your thumb away as you would normally pluck, or bouncing off of the string as you might do if you're playing something like slap bass, you're going to strike through the string with your thumb. So you're going to move down in that semicircular motion that you get from flicking your wrist, and you're going to strike the string, move through it, and rest on the A string. That unmuted should hopefully sound something like this. So you can hear that slap sound, but you can also hear the note coming out cleanly. And I believe that sound there is the basis of John Mayer's entire riff in this song, getting that note strike and also resting it on the string next to it so that you get a slap but also having the note ring out cleanly at the same time. So following our string strike and resting on the A string with our thumb, we're then going to pluck up on the D string with our first finger. And as you can see, as my hand's coming down in a semicircular motion to strike the first string, it's going to come up in the same motion to pluck the second string. So I'm going to strike down on the E string and then pluck up on the D string with my finger. And so it's very much a back and forth motion with my wrist, as opposed to a back and forth motion with my fingers. And that's going to give us that percussive sound and also a bit of a rhythmical bounce to get us moving throughout the rest of the riff. So now you have the first two beats of the groove down. I'd recommend practicing those two and getting them nice and clean and consistent. So take the low C string and maybe take the E flat on the first fret of the D string and literally spend as much time as you need to getting that to sound really, really good with a down, strike, and a pluck, strike, pluck, strike, pluck, strike, pluck, strike, pluck. When you can get that to sound nice and consistent and you can get your wrist being the main driver of what's going on, we can then repeat the same pattern on the next two strings. So after we have our strike on the E string, our pluck on the D string, I'm going to have the same strike and rest on the G string. So striking the G string with the thumb and resting on the B string with it, and then plucking back up on the B string with your finger. So if we take our E flat sus2 chord that we're going to learn in the main riff of the song later and practice that down, up on the E, D, G and B strings. Strike, pluck, pluck. So again, take as much time as you need to make sure that the sound is coming out nice and cleanly, nice and consistently and nice and accurately. So after a bit of practice, it should hopefully sound something like this. After you've got those first four beats down, the next beat is going to be a slap on the low E string, and we're not going to strike through the string this time, we're just going to rest it on the string to get that slap sound. Following that slap on the E string, we're then going to have a pluck on the G string, we're going to have another slap on the E string, and then a pluck on the D string. So all 8 of those beats together, slowly and muted, should hopefully sound something like this. So strike, pluck, slap, pluck, slap, pluck, strike, pluck, slap, pluck, slap, pluck. So after you've got the 8 beat groove down with the strings muted, you can try and put it over a chord, which should hopefully sound slowly, something like this. If we speed it up a little bit, it should hopefully start to sound a little bit like the track. And so make sure you practice that, get it nice and clean, get it nice and consistent, and make sure that you can do it easily and naturally, and that the groove feels nice and natural as well. And then hopefully you'll be able to move on to the chords for the intro and the main riff. So the chords of the introduction and the main riff of Neon start with a C sus4. We then go up to an E flat sus2. We then move to an F minor 11th. Then go quickly up to an A flat sus2 and then a B sus2 6. The last 2 chords are played at twice the speed, so half the length of the first 3, and then applying that technique we've just practiced, we'll start with a down strike on the low E string. So then the next 2 beats are muted, so, and then we have our pluck on the B string, slap, and then pluck on the G string. So we end up with, and then the next 2 are again muted. It's not as important if you mute the D string or not for plucking in that one. The main thing is you get the first 3 notes to ring clearly, so the C, the G, and the F. So, and then if that ends up ringing out, moving into the next chord, that's fine. So from the C we have the E flat. Again, make sure you can strike that nice and cleanly. It's not always easy to do, especially when you're playing it live and at speed, and even John Mayer struggles with it sometimes because of just the movement of the technique and how much it actually bounces up and down. You're bound to miss a string every now and again. So strike there, and then a slap and pluck. So, and then here's the strange one. So these 2 chords are linked a bit more closely, so instead of playing your 3rd fret as you're coming down, you're going to play the G open. So we end up with the, and then slap again, which then comes onto the A flat of the F minor 11, and then we start the third chord. So those two together specifically, because that's the only time that happens, we end up with this. So instead of leading with what would be the bass note, you're actually leading the chord with the second note of the chord as you normally play the other ones. So we end up with all three chords together. We have our C sus4, E flat sus2, and then our F minor 11th. Then we come to the strange and tricky part, and this is the part that I struggle with the most, and I still struggle, to be honest. The A flat sus2 is played two different ways when John Mayer plays it. So in the live in LA version, it's played as the first chord is played, so just straight up, down, and the second chord is played the same way. So the A flat sus2 is, sorry, and the B flat add 2/6 is played the same way. However, on earlier versions, so on the Inside Once Out version where he plays it on acoustic, and also in Room for Squares where it's played on electric, he does what is referred to, I suppose, as a thumb rake. So you would still strike the bottom string as best you can, so you still strike, and then you essentially rake your thumb across all the strings up to the G string, and then you pluck the B string, so you end up with this. And the best thing is not to think about it too much in terms of rhythm, because of the way the thumb's moving. The best thing is just to end up with, if you're thinking of the beats that we were talking about earlier, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's between the 1 and the 3, so 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you pluck the open G string before moving on to the B add 2/6 chord, so you end up with the. So again, when it's played up to speed, it sounds a bit more like bum ba da da. So ba da bum bum da da, but as you're moving it, the main thing is just to get getting your thumb across the strings cleanly, keeping that A string muted if you can, and then getting onto the B sus2 6 chord as quickly as you can, because that's quite a quick chord change. Made easier if you do have big thumbs, but if not, really practice getting those two chords specifically very clean, because they're the two hardest to do. So all together, having all of those chords put together with the technique that we've just been practicing as well, it should hopefully sound something like this. Your thumb is constantly, except for that A flat sus2 chord, is essentially just going back and forth the whole time. And so then it's just a case of slowly starting with a metronome. The metronome is what makes you feel comfortable, and just burning the coordination into your brain essentially for a very long time. So if we speed it up just a tiny little bit, hopefully it should start to sound a little bit more like the original track on Inside Once Out. So we have it. So now we come to the chords and the picking pattern for the pre-chorus of the song. The picking pattern that we've learned, the 8-beat groove, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is going to essentially stay the same. The only difference is we're going to syncopate the rhythm by taking out a couple of the beats each time. So if we find the first chord of the pre-chorus, we're going to find that by taking the last chord of the introduction of the main riff, our B flat sus2 6. I'm going to slide that down 2 frets to an A flat sus2 6. And we're going to take 6 of the 8 beats. So if we have all 8 beats, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're going to have 6 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to repeat that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's then going to be followed by a quick 2 beats, 1, 2, before we change chord from our A flat sus2 6 to our G minor 11th, which is the same as our F minor 11th that we've learned from our introduction to main riff. I'm just going to move that up 2 frets to a G minor 11th. Once again, with the chord fingerings, just quickly, if you can finger the chords like John Mayer does, having your thumb wrapped around the neck of the guitar and fretting the low E string with it, I would encourage you guys to do that. If that's not the case and your hands aren't big enough, like mine, then feel free to fret them the way that you guys can see me fretting them as well. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and we move on to our G minor 11th. The syncopation after this first little jump varies massively from recording to recording from the early stuff, and so I would encourage you guys to have a listen to the tracks and pick one that suits you. The only reason I say this is because I don't think even John Mayer consciously syncopates it in any particular way each time. I think he just does what he feels is right at the moment, and on stage, and I'd encourage you guys to do the same. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and then we essentially have, I would maybe encourage you guys to try like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, or like a 3, 3, 2 pattern, which would sound something like this between the two. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we move down to the next chord in the sequence, which is if we take our A flat sus2, move it down 2 more frets, we end up with a G flat sus2, cause logic. So then everything together, oh, and sorry, we do the same picking pattern on that one again. So we end up with our, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. As an example, again, when he plays it, he adds extra 2 beats in and 4 beats and other things if you have a listen to the Inside Ones Out track. But the point is that the picking pattern itself remains the same, you're just cutting it short. So if I was to take a version from the Inside Ones Out, I'll try and sing you guys a little bit for the first pre-chorus. So it might sound something like this. So we have, she comes and goes like no one can. And then as soon as you finish the pre-chorus, you're then back into the main riff for the second verse. Okay, so now we come to the second pre-chorus of the song. We take everything that we've learned in the first pre-chorus. So, she comes and goes like no one can. And we're going to repeat that for the first half of it, and then we're going to change it ever so slightly. So we have, she comes and goes, she's. So we have our A flat sus2, we then move down to our G minor 11th, sorry. We then move down to our F minor 11th that we had earlier, back up to our G minor 11th, and then to what becomes an F minor 7th chord as well. Again, if your thumb's not big enough to fit around the neck, you can always play it like that, I suppose. Your second finger fretting the low E string instead. However, once again, if you can fret it like that, it's probably easier for you to do, and it'll be a bit more comfortable in between chords. So, putting all of that together quickly, for the second pre-chorus, we end up with this. So we have. Into the chorus. Okay, so now we come to the chords and the picking pattern of the chorus of the song. A few of the chords you guys should recognise already because we played them in the introduction / main riff and the pre-chorus of the song. So we're going to start off with our F minor 11th that we learned in the introduction and the main riff of the song, and we're going to do a 6 of the 8-beat cycle on the F minor 11th. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're then going to move up to our G minor 11th, and we're going to do a 6 and a 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're then going to move down to our C minor voicing, which is going to be played by barring the G, B, and the D strings on the 3rd fret, and then having your 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and then your 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the D string. So we end up with sounding like that. The reason the bar is important because you're going to do a hammer on in the next section to make it sound like the song. So we're going to have a 4 to begin with of the 8-beat cycle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. the C. We're then going to do a 6. However, the first 2 of the 6 of the 8-beat cycle are going to be taken up by a strike with your thumb on the D string, and then a hammer on, which negates the finger pluck you would be doing. So you do a strike with your thumb, hammer on, and then you move and strike the G string in the same way, and then you pluck with your finger on the B string, and then you strike the D string again and pluck the B string again. So that slowly, with the 4 and the 6, should hopefully sound something like this. So we have like that. Again, when played at speed, it will sound a bit more percussive, and it should hopefully make a bit more sense as well. If you notice, my hand is still going back and forth, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if you've got that picking pattern down, the back and forth, rhythmically that should hopefully make sense to you guys. So after the 6, we have another 6, which does the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a bit more quickly, that should hopefully sound something like this. You then repeat the whole part that we've just had, so the F minor 11th, G minor 11th, and the C minor 11th again. So everything together should hopefully sound something like this. So we have both times through. Again, on the last slap of the last 6 of the C minor, you don't necessarily have to slap the 5th fret, which would be a G note, the 5th fret of the D string with your thumb. You can always strike the low C string to give yourself a bit of momentum to get back into the repeat of the chord sequence. So then the 3rd time through, following that F minor 11th, G minor 11th, C minor 7th progression, we're then going to go on the C minor. Instead of going to our 6 with our hammer-ons, we're going to move all the way up to a B flat sus2 chord, which you'll find by taking the A flat sus2 from the introductory riff and moving it up 2 frets, so a B flat sus2, and we're going to do the 6 up there instead. So all of that together will hopefully sound like this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 5, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a 6 and then a 4 on the B flat sus2. We then move down and do the same thing 2 more times through on the A flat sus2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're back into the main riff, or if we're in the second chorus, we're into the breakdown. So all of that together from the chorus should hopefully sound something like this. So we have back into the main riff or the breakdown, which we're going to cover now. So the bridge section of the song is quite simple in that we have our F minor 11th voicing that we learned from the pre-chorus, and we're essentially going to move that up into 3 higher voicings that are exactly the same shape. So we start off with our F minor 11th. We move up 2 frets to our G minor 11th. We're going to move up 1 more fret to make it an A flat minor 11th, and then 2 more frets after that to make it a B flat minor 11th. And in terms of syncopation, we're going to play 6 of the 8 beats of our 8-beat cycle on the F minor 11th. We're going to play a 6 and a 4 on the G minor 11th. We're going to play another 6 on the A flat minor 11th, and then we're going to play a 6 and a 4 on the B flat minor 11th. So that slowly should sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're then going to play that twice through, a little bit faster. So we have following those 2 progressions, we're going to do the same progression, except we're going to do 6s all the way up on each of the 4 chords, and then after we play our 6 on the B flat, we're going to play a 4 on the B flat minor 11th, and then a 1. And so the last time through the progression should sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then slide back down again. So all of that together should hopefully sound something like this. breakdown section. So the picking pattern in the breakdown section of the song is very similar to that of the chorus of the song, in that they both have hammer-ons which take the place of notes that would be plucked within our 8-beat groove that we've been working on so far. So we're going to start off with our C minor 7th chord that we had in the chorus, and we're going to do 6 of the 8-beat groove on that chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like so. We're then going to move up to a new chord that we haven't played before, which is still technically the C minor 7th, but it's been inverted. So we have our first finger on the 7th fret of the low C string, our 3rd finger on the 8th fret of the D string, and our 4th finger on the 8th fret of the G string. So if I move my middle finger out of the way, it should look something like that. If there's a more comfortable way for you to finger it, feel free to do that instead. That's most comfortable for me, I find. And we're going to do 6 beats on this particular chord as well. However, the first 2 are going to be a strike with the thumb and then a hammer-on with the finger, which means that pluck that was going to come is going to be negated, and we're going to skip the pluck and then do another strike on the D string, a pluck on the G string, and then a slap and a pluck, muted. So we have that 6 together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Putting that together with the first C minor 7 that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We then follow on with the last chord of the introduction and the main riff, which is our B flat sus2 6 chord, and we're going to do 4 beats on this. However, the first 2 are going to be strike with the thumb and then a hammer on from the 7th fret of the low C string to the 10th fret, which means again we don't pluck our finger, and we're then going to strike with our thumb on the D string and then pluck on the G string from that chord. If you can get to that chord quickly, then I'd recommend that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. If you can move your fingers quick enough, then definitely do that. If not, then you have to walk them up instead, which is what I end up having to do. Then feel free to do that instead. So everything together should hopefully sound something like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. I'm going to do that 3 times, the 6, 6, 4 on those 3 chords. We're then going to do the last 6, 6, 4 on the C minor voicing that we had at the top instead. So everything together for the breakdown section should hopefully sound something like this. And then you're back into the final pre-chorus before the last chorus of the song. So now we come to the 3rd variation of the pre-chorus, which is played before the 2nd and 3rd choruses of the song. The picking pattern and the chords are exactly the same as the first 2 variations of the pre-chorus to begin with, in that we have our A flat sus2 6 chord, moving to our G minor 11th chord, down to our G flat sus2 6 chord, with the same picking pattern, which would sound something like this twice through. Then we have 6 of the 8-beat cycle on the F minor 11th, a 6 and a 4 on the G minor 11th, a 6 on the A flat sus2 that we learned from the introduction and the main riff, and then a 6 and a 4 on the B flat sus2, which is found by taking the A flat sus2 and moving it up 2 frets, because A flat plus 2 equals B flat, in terms of guitar speak at least. So we have. So all of that together should hopefully sound something like this. And then you guys are ready for the 2nd and 3rd chorus. And that is how to play Neon by John Mayer. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like, please subscribe to my channel, turn on the little notification bell to get information about new covers and new tutorials when they come out. If you have any recommendations or any tutorials or covers that you guys would like to hear, please let me know in the comment section below. I will make sure I reply to all of the comments, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care.